Part 91. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 904. 9-3 Crossing Dragon Fox. At this time, the giant Banyan Demon King said, although the soundwood is precious, it has no effect on the Demon King, but it only adds to the trouble. I have to say that this old tree demon is terrific and very calm in front of huge benefits. Think of it as a tree demon, but it hasn't taken off yet. It cannot be separated from this acre of land even if it is a cow fork. If it spreads in the future, it will say that there is soundwood here. I am afraid it will never be peaceful. And most importantly, this thing is useless to it. The giant Banyan demon again said, I can't see it this way. I don't want to soundwood, I only need the beast Dan. Whoever you give is enough. The king will give the white dog to whom. Ecchi felt as if this tree demon was really fine. In this way, it became the most profitable party out of thin air. Xianxia rescued his brother eagerly and busily. Okay, I'll change it with you. You wait, I have a lot of beasts here, let me count. Xianxia and others frowned again. This way, the monsters were killed in black and white. Of course, the beasts were taken away. Of course, Ecchi did not kill a few monsters. Where did the monsters come from? Ecchi originally got a lot in Kangbei, but wasn't that sold in Yunyeo? Go to the Black Demon Zone acquisition? That's even more nonsense. There is a shortage of beast Dan there. You can sell it, but you can't count on buying it. Then let's join together, and everyone took out all their beasts, a total of 18 top quality and 5 top quality. Inferior products are useless, who wants that stuff? Unlike them, Xianxia can be poor, and all the lower grades are dug. Xianxia looked at Ecchi and others frowning. He laughed, the so-called heaven rewards diligence. Unlike some people, they know how to drink and have fun. Tree demon, my husband has 100 beasts of good quality, and 100 beasts of good quality. After listening to his pride, Cao Junfen said, Ecchi, why don't we kill now? Junfen yelled, where is the time? I look to grab the soundwood. Probably after hearing Ecchi's conversation, Xianxia freed up her hands and wanted to put away the soundwood floating above her head. But who knows, at this time, no one thought of it. When I saw a golden light suddenly, there was no sign of it, and I didn't know what it was. He was like lightning, and flew to the top of Xianxia's head in a blink of an eye, picked up the soundwood and flew away. All this came without too many signs. Even Xianxia himself didn't expect that the people present were stunned, and even forgot to shoot. But even if it was shot, it was too late. That bird is going too fast. However, the moment the bird stopped, the afterimage left in the eyes of everyone. Let everyone see clearly, this is a three-legged Jinwu. You must know that this three-footed Jinwu is not an ordinary bird, but an ancient bird in the flood. It is very rare and its value is not less than that of Otoki. Everyone's eyes followed the three-footed Jinwu, and I saw that in the sky. I do know when a demon Jiu has stood. The demon Jiu is very strange, wearing a scholar-like costume, but wearing a dragon's head, and behind the butt, there is a big furry tail. Dragon fox, everyone was surprised again. I saw the dragon and fox take over the soundwood in Jinwukao of Sanzu, and said to himself, the soundwood, yes, it's just the birthday of the city owner. As if the dragon and fox did not see the people waiting, they talked to themselves and left. The voice did not fall, it had turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. All this was born in the blink of an eye, and no one noticed when the dragon fox came, not even the Xianxia and the giant Banyan Demon King present. And although the dragon fox didn't panic, he was very fast, and it was difficult to chase it. The first person to wake up was Xianxia, and he moved immediately. Of course, he was not chasing dragon fox. Can the dragon fox approach unknowingly, be not low, or have special abilities? Isn't he going to die? He was pounced on the giant Banyan Demon King, and wanted to rescue Baisha from the Demon King. Now that he has lost the sound wood, he has lost the bargaining capital, so he can only take advantage of everyone to grab it. And the second one that actually moved was Deu. Her teleportation had appeared a few miles away, her body was twisted again, and a dragon shape appeared. My son, I know that sound wood is important, and Deu will grab it back for you. Yekong hurriedly shouted, no. Deu will come back soon. But there is no shadow in the sky, even Yekong can feel the trace of Deu even when he touches the waste beast circle. At this instant, the change is too sudden, and there are too many things, which can be called dazzling. Over there, the giant Banyan Demon King lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and it was not a bad stubble. When he saw Xianxia coming, it snorted, don't blame me. After finishing speaking, the giant Banyan Demon King shrank into the ground, and pulled Baisha's body under the sand and stones. Second brother, Xianxia was screaming, shouting, and hitting hard. Boom, the sand was flying across the sky, as if it had rained with sand and stones, and a thrilling pit appeared on the ground. However, such an attack obviously had no effect on the giant Banyan Demon King, and when it got out of the ground again, it appeared under Yekong and others. Yes, Iodeo friend, give you a gift. The giant Banyan Demon King emerged, and those soft branches flung, throwing Baisha's body out. The giant Banyan Demon King's move is obviously La Yekong and others launch, but even if he doesn't pull, Yekong and his have deep hatred and cannot be resolved. Yekong, let's meet, Xianxia roared loudly, his whole body shaking violently, and black yin-like air was sprayed from all parts of his body, like a large cloud of black, and the inkwell was in black twisting in the clouds, flickering. Yekong and others originally relied on Deu and the Wolf King. Now that Deu is going to chase the dragon and fox, the Wolf King cannot do it alone. After all, Xianxia is a great monk in the late Yuanying period. How can Yekong and their ancestors deal with it of? But fortunately, there is also a giant Banyan Demon King. This guy is desperate to fight with Xianxia, and his old voice roars, Yeziao, wait for you to enter the sea of trees, we will kill the dogs together. To this day, Yekong and others can't wait to doubt the giant wrong Demon King. After the desert turned into a sea of trees, several people turned into a few dots of light and disappeared into the sea of trees. Looking at the green below, Xianxia yelled, I fight with you. At this moment, all the people rushing into the sea of trees were dragged into a sandy ground by a branch. Yekong only felt as if he had fallen into a downward thin channel, flying down, and his eyes were dark. I didn't know where to go, and my friends didn't know where to go. Elder Demon King, what do you mean? Yekong roared loudly. No answer. Soon, Yekong's feet suddenly became bright, and when Yekong fell into it, he saw that it was a small-scale stone room. The stone room is very quiet, with small tables, chairs, bedding, and a lot of furniture. What is strange is that the walls around the stone room are full of dense holes, each of them has a thick body, and Yekong slides out from one of them. Yekong was the first to enter the stone room. Then, Cao Junfan, Li Guanhua, Cao Muse and others all entered the stone room. Everyone was shocked at first, but looking at Shishi in front of them, I felt that the king of Banyan monsters was not malicious, and everyone did not speak, and looked at each other, but they were ready for battle. Dear young friends, welcome to my home of the giant Banyan Monster King. Only my best friend will invite them to come in. The old voice of the giant Banyan Monster King sounded. Yekong laughed, that's it, thank the Demon King for his trust in me, but I see that there are tables, chairs, and furniture in this stone room. Is there anyone living here? Zhurong laughed, that's the old man, it's just your little Wolf King kid, the old man can't come out. Oh, Yekong took out the beast's soul pupa and put away the Wolf King. At this time, a small red-nosed old man was drilled out of the stone room. The old man was very ugly, but he was kind-looking and not like a bad person. The giant banyan demon king said, "The demon is difficult to repair, the tree demon is even more difficult. The demon king has lived for hundreds of thousands of years. So far, it has only just been transformed." Everyone nodded. No wonder the old man was afraid of Xiaofeng Wolf King. It turned out he was just a soul. The King Banyan demon asked everyone to sit down, raised his hand, and a light and shadow appeared on a wall. He saw that the light and shadow were cleaning up the trees in front of him like crazy. The giant Banyan demon king laughed, "This guy is really like a crazy dog, but it's useless. Those branches can be regenerated. How much do I need? But this demon king's killing method is really worthless, so I would like to ask for your help me, kill this cricket." Everyone had doubts in their hearts. It stands to reason that Yekong is the one who hates Xianxia. Why is this giant banyan demon king so active? It also said that if you ask for help, it seems that everyone is running this far to help it. The giant banyan demon king could see the doubts of the big guy, and laughed, "I am a tree, and the absorption of heaven and earth is too slow. I also want to be transformed early, I can leave this ghost place and walk around, take a look." Yekong asked, "In addition to absorbing the aura of heaven and earth, the faster way for the predecessor is to absorb the inner monster of the monster?" The giant banyan demon king laughed, "Yes, that's right. Otherwise, I didn't ask you for Beast Dan just now." Yekong and others suddenly understood that the giant banyan demon king was so active, and they all laughed. "That's easy to do, when he destroys Xianxia, all his beasts are left to the predecessors." However, the giant banyan demon shook his head and smiled, "Not only the beast Dan, but even the golden Danyuan infant of the immortal, that's okay." After listening to this sentence, everyone immediately understood that the original picture of the giant banyan demon king was not only the beast Dan in Xianxia's storage bag, but also Xianxia's Yuanying. Now that the words have been exported, the giant banyan demon king simply said directly, "With these two black and white double babies and his beasts, it is enough for this demon king to cultivate into a real asterisk humanoid. In addition, all the other magic weapons and instruments of the black and white double evil are all left to you. The distribution of the giant banyan monster king is very unreasonable. The black and white double evils are relatively poor. Except for beasts, other magic weapons are filthy blood evil things. Although the crying morning stick is arrogant, but it is a destiny magic weapon, others use it as useless." Yekong laughed, "Senior giant, wrong, the so-called prophet is not too early, although I have hatred with that Xianxia, it is not the kind of deep hatred. On the contrary, his now has deep hatred and his predecessors, and, black, the difference between the realm of Xia and me is too great. If I wait for a risky shot, there will be huge risks, so all little foxes." The king of giant banyan devil despised it, but his face only continued to smile. After all, with his strength, it was too difficult to kill Xianxia. The giant banyan demon king gritted his teeth, took a few white porcelain vials from his arms, put a bottle in front of everyone, and smiled, "Ying, with this, presumably, can you please fight for me?" To the reader. Confession wall. Brother Yang should say to Dodo, "Dodo baby, I apologize in front of all, forgive me, okay baby." The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 905. 944 Sleepy Immortals. This is it. Yekong and others all picked up the jade bottle on the table and unplugged the cork at the mouth of the small bottle, and suddenly a strong spiritual force poured out. Everyone was discolored, and the spiritual power of this small bottle of liquid was much thinner than the top quality spirit. The giant banyan demon king was very satisfied with Yekong and others' expressions, and laughed, "This kind of spiritual fluid is called the heaven and earth spiritual fluid. It is obtained by my own body and absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It can be said to be spiritual purification. After the liquefaction and condense the essence, even if it is a late master monk, when the spiritual power is exhausted, only one drop can instantly fill up all the spiritual power. One drop can fill up instantly, Chen Shuman exclaimed, and everyone's eyes turned to the vial also changed. The giant banyan demon said, exactly, this thing is used when the spiritual power is emptied against the enemy. That's the best thing. It can fill up instantly with a drop, which is several times faster than absorbing the spirit stone. It is a life-saving medicine. Yekong nodded and asked, I'm afraid this solution is hard to come by. The King Banyan demon nodded and said, yes, although this object is simple in its tempering method, it does not cost, but it is very time-consuming. These things for you, when the Demon King just opened his mind, took tens of thousands of years to train. And now, I have no intention of doing these time-consuming and laborious things again. Yekong asked if he wanted to make more points, but when he said this, he was also embarrassed to speak. Yekong was also polite, and directly put the spirit fluid into the storage ring, saying, since the seniors are so gifted, they killed Haisha as the seniors said, and the Yuanying and Beast Dan were all passed on to the seniors. The giant Banyan Demon King nodded with satisfaction. Yeziao is so refreshing and does not hesitate to express the good intentions of the Demon King. Seriously, I would be a little bit reluctant to have it happen. Everyone laughed and accepted the spirits. This is also very satisfying for them. Even if they get Haisha's Yuanying, it is useless. How can these spiritual fluids be beneficial? Then they made their own plans to kill Haisha in one fell swoop. Boom. Blow me all this. Huh, even today, my husband will kill you even if this desert is turned upside down. Mo, the commander of Hema, blasted the trees in front of him vigorously. Haisha saw Deu leave with his own eyes, so he had no fear. Other than Deu, everyone was not a threat to him. At this moment, Yekong was in a corner of the basement. Like Li Guanhua's production of soul-searching guides, Yekong also imposed a prohibition, and he did it alone. Some people say Yekong is too stingy, let everyone see what's important. Those who have this kind of thought go to cultivate the immortal world, then they will die soon. This is not a matter of generosity. Don't look at these little methods, sometimes they can save lives, if you let others know, maybe it is fatal. What's more, what Yekong did inside was related to his biggest secret. The giant Banyan Demon King looked at the ban and couldn't help but question, what is Yeziao doing, can he do it? Originally, the giant Banyan Demon King wanted to use a tree branch to send Yekong and others out of the secret channel to make a sudden attack and kill Haisha. But Yekong denied it. Haisha is now trapped in the sea of trees, and must be careful to guard against him. So Yekong said, wait for a while, he will make something. Although the giant Banyan Demon King thinks that Yekong is not simple, both beast pets are so powerful. However, he still doesn't believe Yekong to make something temporarily. What can I make to kill Haisha? Cao Muse smiled and said, seniors, don't worry. Yekong has amazing things every time. He says he can. Oh, this is the best. Although the giant Banyan King nodded, he was still doubtful. After waiting for a long time, Yekong came out of the prohibition a little tired. It was not because he deliberately dragged time, but the first time he made this kind of Chinese charm. The success rate was too low, and he failed many times. Only succeeded once. Success, Li Guanhua and others were busy asking. In fact, they are also very worried. Everyone has received the benefits of the giant Banyan Monster King. If Haisha cannot be eliminated, it is estimated that the giant Banyan Monster King will not be so polite. Yekong raised his hand and took out a spell, and nodded, I've been doing this for a long time. Everyone saw that the spell was not made of rune paper, but was made from the skin of the flood-stricken wild animal. The spells are boxy and square, with various weird characters and lines engraved on them, and those lines are extremely complicated. Even Cao Muse and Cao Junfan, who came out of Yun Fuzong, couldn't figure out what the charm was. This will kill this puppet, The giant banyan demon king is still a little unbelieving. Yekong laughed, this spell is not an attacking spell, of course, it can't kill Xianxia. However, this is a long-lost array of runes. Just hit it quickly, and then lure Xianxia into it. Hold on tight, and then everyone rushes up and hangs them. You'll make martial arts. Cao Muse and Cao Junfan were very surprised. Formations are very tedious and complicated. Even if they were Yun Fuzong, the method of refining formations was long lost. I do know why Yekong made them. The King Banyan demon sighed, the monster has to be a monster or a plant, and everyone must cultivate into a human form. Indeed, although human beings have the weakest physical factors, they are the smartest and have so many auxiliary things. Yekong laughed, I don't know if it's okay. I'll go out later, everyone listens to my orders. Xianxia was still roaring outside, but he was a little boring. This tree demon's body is really amazing. When is this tree full of deserts going to kill himself? And it's completely useless to kill the front and make up the back. Yes, name, you come out to the old man. Xianxia was scolding, and an inkwell opened in front of him, but his body was filled with black evil spirits. Those branches that had just come out and touched evil spirits immediately withered and black, as if burnt. Boom for me, vigorously, Xianxia growled again. He was playing hard and suddenly felt something. The sense he released felt someone in the dense forest on the side. One more induction. It turned out that Yekong was hiding in it and was watching himself. Hey, kid wants to sneak up on me? I'll give you an anti-sneak attack. Xianxia remained calm, and continued to lock Yekong with his consciousness. However, Yekong did not attack, but inserted a flag and quickly left. Boy, want to set me up? I will spare you. Die. Xianxia teleported and appeared in the dense forest. Yekong was stunned in shock, forgetting to escape. Hey, boy, you're dead. Xianxia drew a tactic, hitting Yekong with no mercy. Strangely, Yekong didn't dodge, but smiled treacherously. Not good, fooled. Xianxia was startled and wanted to teleport away, but that Yekong threw a spell at his feet before his body collapsed. The spell was immediately highlighted, and then the sound of the spell exploded. The surrounding scenery was distorted, as if a light curtain spread out. Boy, come up with a fake avatar, and send a spell, it doesn't seem to have any lethality. He looked around puzzled, but now nothing has changed. He is still himself, and there are dense trees around him. But when he used teleport again, he couldn't get away from this square. Xianxia was panicked, but he could walk, fly, or teleport, but he couldn't leave this place. Yekong! You despicable child! What demon array do you use to trap the old man? When the old man goes out, he will kill your whole family and destroy you, he shouted madly in the line. Outside, Yekong and others also appeared around the secret channel. Li Guanhua of the Seven Stars sect has some research on the game of the weekdays, but he has never seen such a strange array, and could not help asking, generally sleepy, not psychedelic, fascinating vision, and people cannot find a way out. It's hard to get smashed in order to get out of trouble, but you have a unique approach, like a magical array, but not a magical array. You do understand, do you have a name? Yekong said, yes, of course. This is called Fangkungxianzhen. Fang Inch Sleepy Fairy Array. Really good name, good array method. Yekong laughed, after all, this is the formation method set by the array symbol, not the actual formation method. All are time limited. Everyone hurried up and destroyed the black dog. Xianxia was trapped in the lineup and could not beat anyone but only be beaten. So after a short while, he died. This square inch of sleepy immortal array really was overbearing, and even the Yuanying who escaped from him could not escape this square inch. Then, Yekong received his Yuanying and took his storage bag, which began to divide the loot with the giant Banyan Demon King. According to everyone's agreement, Xianxia's yuanying and all the beasts were all given to the King Banyan Demon King, and the remaining magical tools and spirit stones were divided equally among the people. Although Xianxia does not have any valuable instruments, after all, it is a monk in the late yuanying period, and there are still a lot of spirit stones and various monster materials. Everyone also made a small fortune. The giant Banyan Demon King is overjoyed at this moment. He is the one who has gained the most. Don't look at what he claims to be a demon king, but he can be poor. On weekdays, I rely on blackmailing monks to pass by to obtain a low-level beast, or to kill some little monsters to drink water by myself. After the 2 UN babies were absorbed by him, he could be transformed into a human figure. At this time, the giant Banyan Demon King has taken back all his avatars and exposed the desert. It is still standing by the small lake, and the old voice laughs, "My little friends, what are your plans for next?" Yekong said, "Without concealing my predecessors, the next time I went into the depths of Honghuang, the purpose was the sound wood. Now that sound wood is missing, my beast pet can't go back, and of course I have to wait for her to come back." That's it. King Banyan Demon nodded and said, "I can't say if the water dragon can come back. But, if you want the sound wood, I advise you not to count." Yekong's face changed abruptly, and he said, "Why?" The giant Banyan devil sneered, and said, "Who do you know who the dragon fox is?" "Who is the city master?" he said. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 906. 905 See Bao Bao Intent. Who do you know who the dragon fox is? Who is the lord of the city in his mouth? After listening to the question of the King Banyan Demon, everyone listened attentively, and did not know where the dragon and fox was sacred. The giant Banyan Demon hummed coldly, "The dragon fox is the righteous son of the Black Dragon City Lord. The City Lord in his mouth is the Black Dragon City Lord. He is also the 1,000,000-mile master in the outer area of the floodplain." Ah, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. First of all, I didn't expect that there really was a Black Dragon City. The map of Yekong had failed in 100 trials, and everyone was desperate, thinking that it was really just a legend, but now it seems that it really exists. Black Dragon City. The second surprise was that the Lord of the Black Dragon City turned out to be so good that he controlled the ground 1,000,000 miles away from Honghuang. But there are millions of miles around the floodplain. What about the inner circumference? What about the core? How big is the flood, and how many powerful characters are there? In the end, everyone was amazed at the identity of that dragon fox. There was such a powerful backstage and backer. Wanting to take back the sound wood from him was simply a tiger mouth extraction. Jianfeng walks out all the year round, and scammers have met more often, so he immediately questioned, "Senior, how do you know that you have been there?" The problem of Jianfeng is very important. The giant Banyan Demon King cannot leave this 3Mu land. How could he know so clearly? The giant Banyan Demon King sneered, "I haven't known this thing for so many years. Although I haven't been there myself, but for so many years, there are so many people coming and going under my tree, listen to them. You can also learn a lot by speaking. Besides, I am purely a reminder of friendship. There is no need to lie to you." Jianfeng offended the giant Banyan Demon King. Yekong immediately apologized, "I'm sorry, my friend just asked and didn't disbelieve his predecessor. Just for another purpose of our trip, I wanted to go to Heilongqingluk, but I don't know where the Black Dragon City is, and I asked my predecessors to guide the way." "Young man, it's..." The giant Banyan Demon King thought Yekong was undead and had to go to Yinmua. He shook his head and sighed, "In the flood, there is no map, no road, and no reference, so it is very easy. Lost." The most important thing is that there is a natural prohibition around the Black Dragon City, and no one can break it. This level of prohibition is called the Spirit Eater. After entering, if there is no special wayfinding token, let you how to get there, you can't get to the Black Dragon City. What's more dangerous for human monks is that when you enter the Spirit Devourer, the spiritual power cannot be called, and the monks are no different from mortals, but there are countless dangerous beasts, so right as far as you are concerned, when you enter the Soul Eater, it is a life of 9 deaths. So it is everyone took a breath. Among the crowd, except Yekong, who wants to go to Heilongchinj the most, another one who wants to go is Cao Junfan. After hearing the King Banyan monster saying Liu Yunling, Cao Junfan couldn't help asking, "Senior, dare to ask if Liu Yunling is a little long dragon with a black dragon jade on it? We also have one, but I don't know why, but not available." The spirit of the giant Banyan demon was energized, and he said immediately, "Show me that." Yekong frowned and was unwilling to take it out. After all, he was not familiar with the giant Banyan demon king, the gentleman was not guilty, and he was guilty of guilt. He knew this. However, Cao Junfan believed the king of Banyan demon very much, and urged him, "Take it out to the seniors and see how to use it. We can also go to Heilongchinj." Yekong had no choice but to put a piece of storage ring in his hand and said, "Predecessor, is this piece of jade, is this the Liu Yunling card leading to the Black Dragon City?" The giant Banyan demon king is very graceful, and did not rush to get the Yufa from Yekong, but just glanced far away and said, "Yes, I have seen those demon repairs out in the past, this jade rune is the Liu Yunling card to the Black Dragon City." Everyone was overjoyed when they heard it. However, the giant Banyan demon king also said, "But with this jade charm, it only shows you the direction. After you enter the Soul Eater, you will still lose your spiritual power. And more importantly, after hearing about the Black Dragon City, a piece of command the card allows only one person to enter." Ah, everyone grew up. If there is such a rule, there is no need for anyone other than Yekong. The only one who didn't give up was Cao Junfan. He said quickly, "Senior, in fact, I only think of the vicinity of the Black Dragon City. It doesn't matter if I can't enter the city. What I want to ask now is, why can't we drive this token? Is there any specific driving law that fails?" The giant Banyan demon king laughed, "There is no magic formula. But I also heard that the guide card was cast by the Black Dragon City for the demon repairs in the city, not for the human monks, so the human monks were not considered when refining and casting factors, so it can't be driven by spiritual power. Only demon power can make it obedient and show the way." Oh, that's it, everyone suddenly realized, no wonder they didn't reflect their exhaustion, and the daring must be a demon. At this time, the giant Banyan demon king said, "Come, take it, I'll show you." From the beginning to the end, the giant Banyan demon king did not show his embarrassment, and he asked for it again. Yekong still had a tender face. After hesitation, he passed the Liu Yunling card. A large branch, like a big hand, took the Liu Yunling card. Then the giant Banyan demon king released his demon power, and saw the token emit a bright white light, floating up, like a beacon, pointing far away to the west. Sure enough, it's the Liu Yunling card. The giant Banyan demon king rejoiced for a while. Don't look at him always pretending that the world's superiors don't care, but in fact, he really wants to get this token. After all, he has seen hope in his transformation, and of course, he wants to go to Heilongchinj to see it. As for the front, it's just a few old ancestors. What can I do? The giant Banyan demon king moved his heart. Please wait a minute, I'll take a look. The giant Banyan monster king's voice didn't fall, and the whole big tree squeaked into the ground low, nowhere. Everyone here had not had time to be happy, but suddenly this kind of thing happened, and they were all dumbfounded. Yekong was furious and yelled, "Senior, I waited to believe in you. How can you use my trust to do despicable things? I don't want you to study and return the token to me. Cao Junfan still didn't quite believe how the benevolent giant Banyan Demon King just grabbed people. Pulling Yekong busy, he said, Yekong, don't talk to your predecessors like this, he just took it for research, maybe he will get it back right away. If you anger him, he won't really give it to us. Yekong cursed, Junfan, don't be so naive, okay, it's easy to be cheated like you. He's obviously snatched. He just uses you and my credulity to treasure. At this time. Ha 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 ha. The old laughter of the giant Banyan Demon King was in the desert. Despicable, not despicable, I can't practice this. Little dolls, let me give you a lesson. Do NT believe it so easily in the future others? Forget it, I don't want to kill you either. You all go back. The road to Heilongchinj is dangerous and dangerous. It might as well be used for the Demon King in the future. You will pass by here later. The Demon King also recognizes you as friends. Give you free water, haha. Friend? We don't have friends like this shameless villain. Demon King, return the token to me, otherwise I'm not good for you, Yekong Leng hummed. Cao Junfan was deceived, and his heart was even more angry. He opened his mouth and spit out the antibiochemical dragon sword, and flew up in the air and shouted, Tree Demon! You are too despicable. I thought you were a kind grandfather. You return my token, otherwise Cao there must be justice in this life, endlessly. Everyone spit out their magic weapon in preparation for the war. But the giant Banyan Demon King laughed and laughed, I just can't come out, how can you help me? I am not afraid of the monks in the late Yuanying period, afraid of you waiting? If this Demon King was kind, I would have killed you long ago. Here. Children, let us go. It's not a place you can stay in the flood. The giant Banyan Demon King didn't give it up, but later he didn't even talk back, and didn't go ahead, so he left a desert for Yekong and let them jump quickly. The most urgent of these is Cao Junfan. This incident is also caused by him. If he had to take out the jade charm, it would not be provoking, and the naive person would be even more angry after being deceived. He kept shouting and shouting, but he didn't give him any echo at all. But at this time, Yekong raised his head and laughed, everyone was surprised, and heard Yekong say aloud, predecessor of the Demon King, those master monks in the late Yuanying period can't help you, because they don't know your bottom Lao Chao. Now that we've all been to your Lao Chao, I believe, as long as we go there, grab your soul, and see when you can hide. The Banyan Demon King, who has never spoken, heard this, and immediately said again, Junior, I think you waited with me to fight against the enemy before you, so it doesn't matter, you don't force this Demon King to kill. There is my old nest in the ground, but you know where the old nest is. With skill, you can dig the entire desert 3 feet away. The giant Banyan Demon King said that everyone's heart was as cold as permeable. Yes, everyone has been to the old nest of the giant Banyan Demon King, but where is the old nest? No one knows. Everyone was dragged in from the passage at that time, and they didn't know the direction at all, how could they know where on the ground? But the accident was Yekong still laughed, others don't know, but I know. I didn't want to do that mean thing, but you forced me to do it, so don't blame me. Today, Yamao had to dig out a passage, he just dug out the old robber to make my howling wolf king full of food. The giant Banyan Demon King snorted, boy, don't you play with me and want to cheat me? Tell you, play with me, you are still tender. You don't believe it? Huh, I have 2 eggs, so play around. Yekong, regardless of him, released his magic weapon and started digging. Cao Muse and Chen Shuman at the back listened to such indecent remarks, their faces turned red, but they also released magic weapons, followed Yekong's 2 flying swords, and dug straight down. Play as you please, whoever is afraid of them, the giant banyan demon king snorted. But soon he couldn't sit still. Because the tunnel dug by Yekong even pointed straight at his old nest. At the beginning, the giant banyan demon thought that Yekong could not be bluffed, but the direction of Yekong remained unchanged. If he dug down like this, one day we'll dig their own nest. Stop, the giant banyan monster roared. Junior, how do you know the direction? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 907. 906 Reclaim Token. Why did Yekong know the location of the old nest of the giant banyan demon king? It's actually really easy. Because when Yekong left before, he quietly left a gold-winged ant there. After hundreds of years of breeding, the current gold-wing ants have been propagated for several generations, and the number has reached an amazing millions. It is simply a large army. In addition, not only are the number of gold-winged ants, but their abilities are amazing. The whole body is red gold, golden, and bright, like an upper-level fairy. If it's a real person who builds a base, a gold-winged ant can kill a bunch. And if these golden-winged ants are hidden, even Yuanying Zhenjun will not be able to show up. Yekong left a gold-winged ant in the secret room of the giant banyan demon king, not to kill the giant banyan demon king, but to guard against others, just in case. Unexpectedly, it was really used. Of course, Yekong will not take the initiative to tell all these things to the giant wrong demon king. He didn't say a word, still digging in his head. This time, the giant banyan demon king panicked. If it was really dug down by Yekong, and found his soul, and released the Xiaofeng wolf king, he would be in vain for hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation. Yedaiu, slow, the giant banyan demon was really panicked, immediately got out of the ground, stretched out a long tree branch, blocked Yekong and others, and said, "It's old and confused, it's old. The card is still you. In fact, even if the old age is now closed, it will still take dozens of years to become a human. Why is it so anxious to grab these things?" Instead of picking up the tokens on the branch, Yekong sneered, "Now you know you're regretful? It's too late. Those wicked puppets cry and scream when they are caught. I never sympathize with these people. Why did you go early? All I know is that if you do something, you have to bear the consequences. If you make a mistake, you have to accept punishment." The giant banyan demon king was furious. "Punish me? You are not qualified yet. This demon king is a situation where you wait for help before you read it, don't want to fight with you. Really thought I was afraid of you? The demon king's means, you just now I also saw that if you can't kill you, you can be exhausted." Yekong laughed, "Why are you fighting? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Haisha was killed because he was stupid. If he attacked underground and slowly dug out all your seeds, I see how you use that dead wood rejuvenation." The giant banyan demon haha also laughed, "Boy, you are stupid than Haisha. Do you know how much seed I have left in this desert? Tell you, I can't figure it out myself." Yekong was unmoved and insisted, "How many, that doesn't matter. What's important is as long as I make up my mind. In the past, my hometown had Yugong moved to the mountains. Today, I also do Yugong once. Just 10 years, I can't finish digging for 10 years, I'll be 100 years. One day, I will dig you up clean and leave no trace of grass." Yekong finished speaking, ignored him, and began to command Fijian to start digging. The giant banyan monster really had a headache this time. He really kicked it on the iron plate. How did he meet this person? For a broken brand, spent 10 years with myself? However, if he did this, the giant banyan demon king would surely die. "Hey, Yedaiu, why aren't you oil and salt? I'm willing to pay you back, we don't have deep hatred. Hey, don't dig, it's old and afraid of you." Yekong still ignored and led everyone to dig down. "If you dig like this, you will dig the old nest of the giant banyan demon king in a few hours. This time he was really anxious and roared, "Boy, what do you want? Give me a word." Yekong knew that he had reached the limit, and when he dug further, the giant banyan demon king would attack. So he sneered, "You must accept punishment." "How to punish?" the giant banyan devil hummed. "How to punish?" Yekong sneered, "Of course it makes me happy, but I also know that you are not too rich, so as long as you make some liquids you make." The giant banyan demon king was furious. "I knew you would hit my idea of heaven and earth spirits. You are extortion. You are so shameless. Despicable." However, despite the anger, the giant banyan demon king had no choice but to return the Liuyan token, and also take out 10 bottles of heaven and earth as the punishment. Yekong wanted to blackmail a little more, but there is really no such thing as the giant banyan demon king. The giant banyan demon king handed things over, went back alone, and was busy moving. Now that he knows where the old nest is, he is in danger. As everyone knows, the little golden ant also moved with him. Yekong didn't take it back. His ants were many, and they were placed in the king of the giant banyan demon, to prevent this old boy from getting any famous. However, the giant banyan demon king knew Yekong's power, and of course he would not actively provoke him. When the matter was over, Yekong and others also came to a breakup. He only has a Lutz token, and it is inconvenient for others to follow him. If it is not good, he will be regarded as the idea of Lutz token. Li Guanhua laughed, "I wanted to go to the Black Dragon City to see the market, but there was only one token, so my couple went back first. I wish you all the best." Yekong hugged his fist, "Thanks Xianxia for sending Yetu here, but he didn't choose what Li needed, but you can rest assured that when Ye returns, you must first get the silk sack of the eye silkworm mother." Li Guanhua waved his hand, "Anyway, this time we are not in vain. If we want to say value, this heaven and earth spiritual fluid will greatly exceed the eye silkworm mother. We have made a lot of money." Everyone laughed. Sanjiu Jianfeng also said, "Yes Zone, I will go back with Li Daiyu next time. I wish you an early acquisition of treasures and return to Middle-earth." Yekong nodded and asked, "Jianfeng, I wonder if you want to join the sect?" Jianfeng's eyes brightened. In fact, he was envious of those high-ranking factions. As long as he practiced every day, he didn't have to talk about life. Who doesn't want to? However, Jianfeng shook his head and said, "Before the Dan, no sect wanted me. After the Dan, many sects invited me to join, but unfortunately, I joined halfway. After entering, I will be excluded." Yekong waved his hand and said, "I am different from Yuan Zone. Do NT tell me that at the moment when I am Yuan Zone, there is no phenomenon of gang affiliation, so you might consider, of course, if you want to go to other schools in Kangnan, I can help you too." Yekong didn't finish talking, but Jianfeng was already half knelt on the ground, shouting with his fists, "I've seen the suzerain, Jianfeng would like to die for the suzerain." "Okay," Yekong patted Jianfeng, pulled him up, recorded a passage, handed it to Jianfeng, and asked him to find the entry for Yuan Zone himself. Yekong, Li Guanhua and others said goodbye. Cao Junfen and Cao Muse both stood behind Yekong, as if they were also heartfelt. "Junfen, master, you also go back with Li Daiyu's flying boat," Yekong said. Cao Junfen shook his head and said, "Yekong, don't persuade me, I won't go. Now that I know that there is a dragon in Black Dragon City, I must go, even if I die, willingly. And, I will never with your token idea, I don't want to enter the city, you take me outside the city, and I'm satisfied." He said this, Yekong couldn't say much, everyone had made up his mind, and persuaded himself to be a persuasion. He had to look at Cao Muse again. Cao Muse blushed and said, "Since Junfen went, I went too, rest assured, I won't covet your token, I just don't rest assured. Yekong smiled bitterly, Master, don't you know that this trip is very dangerous? No one knows what you will encounter along the way. Call it 9 deaths and a lifetime. Cao Muse interrupted, then I'll go. What a disrespectful teacher. Yekong opened his mouth and did not know what to say. Cao Mose asked again, can you give up Dao and leave? Yekong looked up and said, of course not. Dao saved my life more than once. Although it is my spirit beast, it is my benefactor. This time I can get back the sound wood, that is the second. The key is to get back Dao even if I go back and forth 1,000 times, and even if I die a lifetime, I have to go there. I will not return Dao, and I swear not to return. Cao Muse said, the same is true of me, and I can't give up on you. You are also my benefactor. So no matter how difficult the road ahead, I will go this way. I won't return without you. Yekong frowned and went to see Cao Junfan. Cao Junfan opened his hands with a bitter smile, meaning he couldn't help it. Okay, but if there's really a lot of danger ahead, you have to turn back when I let you go. Cao Mose listened to his promise, with a pretty face on display, and laughed, what? When I was born Dan, you were not born yet, and you didn't believe in my strength. Yekong still said coldly, oath. With a smile, Cao Mose blushed and said, swear. This oath is not a heart oath, nor is it a blood oath. It has no effect. But Yekong just wanted to get a guarantee. The road ahead is really dangerous. He cannot let Cao Muse take the risk of irrelevant people. If there is a real danger in the future, he will ask Cao Muse to obey his vow. But is it true that Cao Mose will keep his vow? Yekong can't help it, he can't let his wife's master swear by blood. Then Li Guanhua and others were about to leave. Before leaving, Li Guanhua asked again, will I leave the flying boat to you, let's go back. No flying boat is fine. Yekong shook his head and rejected his kindness, thank you, do Auntie need it? Into the depths of the flood, the Fiashu target is too big. In addition, what kind of spirit-eating poisonous puppet, Fiashu is also driven by spiritual power, it is estimated that it is not necessary to enter. Li Guanhua nodded, released the flying boat, and was about to leave. Yekong remembered one more thing and asked, last time, Yu Tan Qinghui Zhenjun taught me the 8 cloths of Jingguang array, but those array eyes are specially made by your 7-star sect. Oh, it's easy, I have it. Li Guanhua said to his heart, the master Yuanying can teach him the secret array method, so why don't I give him some eyes? Li Guanhua lowered his eyes, and then took Chen Shuman Jianfeng and others to stand on the flying boat, take care of the fist, and then the flying boat started and left. Li Guanhua and others left, Yekong lifted his hand and swept his eyes into the storage ring. Cao Junfan busily laughed and asked, let's start, then. Ye gave him a blank look. Fart it, wait for Dao to come back first. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 908. 977 Soul Eater. The giant banyan demon king is busy moving. The so-called people move living trees to death. It is not easy for the giant banyan demon king to change his old nest. Of course, Yekong was not idle. He laid 8 Jingguang arrays on the side of the desert, and meditated with Cao Junfan and Cao Muse every day, waiting for Dao to return. However, there was no news after Dao left, which made Yekong's heart can't help worrying. One is afraid that Dao can't fight the dragon fox, and the other is that Dao can't find a way back. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. On this day, the King Banyan Demon King finally moved home, and he got out of the soil again and shouted in the direction of the 8-door Jingguang array, Yeziawa, Yeziawa. What's the matter? Yekong asked as he walked out of the 8 Jingguang arrays. Although experiencing the treasure-robbing incident, there was no hatred between him and the giant Banyan Demon King, but it was impossible to be as intimate as before. The giant Banyan Demon King said, "You are still waiting for your water dragon. I advise you not to wait. Otherwise you will go back to your house, or you will find it. That dragon fox is the son of the lord of the Black Dragon City. Your water dragon must follow him to Black Dragon City." Listening to their conversation, Cao Junfan also came out. He was anxious that Yekong hurriedly set off for Heilongjiang, so he also said, "I think so, it would be better if we look for it all the way. If Dao comes back, there is a chance to come, if not come back. Please ask the old senior Banyan to help spread a message." Cao Junfan was deceived by the giant Banyan Demon King once, and then yelled coldly to the giant Banyan Demon King, "If you dare not convey, I will also be a prince. If I can't finish digging in a year, I will be 10 years, 10 I can't dig for years, I'll be 100 years. One day, I will dig you clean and leave nothing in the grass." Cao Junfan's words are completely learned from Yekong. Not only is it true, but the tone is exactly the same as Yekong. But the king of giant Banyan Devil laughed, "Young man, you can't scare me. If Yeziao said, I would be scared, but you say, I just feel funny." Cao Junfan said angrily, "Why? Murder?" King Banyan Devil sneered, "Yes, it's murder. Although you learned nothing from him, but your words lacked a firm murderer without the support of this force. No matter how hard it is, it won't be hard anymore." Cao Junfan dissatisfied, and bowed his head, snorted, and said to himself, "Am I better than this guy?" The giant Banyan Demon once again said, "You said, I feel murderous." Yekong waved his hand and interrupted them, saying, "Senior, you don't have to stir up alienation. In fact, I know why you want to drive us away. Don't you just want to retreat, afraid that we will bother you again?" "Don't worry, actually you don't," he said, "I'm going to leave too, and staying here to wait is really nothing." The giant Banyan Monster King was thought by Yekong Chai, and said arrogantly, "I'm not afraid of you doing anything, whatever you do, I'm not afraid of you." After speaking, the giant Banyan monster said something, and then straightened it out. The body retracted into the ground. The King Banyan Demon left the words, "Remind you again that the Lord of the Black Dragon City is a black dragon. No one knows how he cultivated it. But some people say that he had already risen through the robbery, but, I don't know why the black dragon refused to ascend and die. He just suppressed his cultivation, so, if you want to grab something from the black dragon, wait for death, ha ha ha." Hearing this, Cao Mu's face that had just stepped out of the array became pale. If the giant Banyan Demon King did not lie, then the black dragon is at least the demon repair in the late Mahayana period. You have to be right with a demon repair in the late Mahayana period. However, no matter if he is Mahayana or Jingxian Xiandi, Yekong's firmness will not be shaken. If he abandons Dao at this moment, is he still human? Knowing that he will die, this is me, this is Yekong. On the same day, Yekong and others embarked on the journey to find the Black Dragon City. More than half a month has passed. Deep in the famine. There are dense forests everywhere, towering ancient trees everywhere. There was a dull beast roar after a while in the jungle, making people feel terrified. At this moment, 4 rays of light flew in the sky. The luminosity was so fast that in the blink of an eye, he had already reached the sky above the dense forest. The visitors are Yekong and others. Cao Junfan looked around and said, "It's really easy to get lost in the flood and fly for almost a month, but I think the scenery here is almost the same as before." A trace of Cao Mu's horns dangled, and laughed, "Otherwise, there is danger in the flood, but fortunately, there is a way to guide the tokens. There are no powerful monsters on this way, otherwise they will confuse and walk away. When we enter the territory of the powerful Demon King, we are in trouble." She was right. There is a way to guide the direction of the token, so this route is the route that previous people have traveled. The monsters at the lower and middle levels have encountered a lot, but the monsters at the higher levels, or the Demon King, have not encountered them, which is considered their luck. However, even the middle-level monsters are very powerful. Without Yekong and his Wolf King, Cao Muse believes that he cannot come safely. Yekong also looked back and forth and said, "Have you guys been there? There are obviously fewer beasts in the past 2 days. The fewer they are, the closer we are to the Black Dragon City, at least to the devouring poison cock, be careful." Cao Junfan and Cao Muse both nodded. Yekong said again, "Wolf King, take Liuyan out and see if you are in the wrong direction." Since knowing that this way the token can only be activated by the demon repair, the task of checking the direction every day has been given to the Howling Wolf King. OK, Xiaofeng Wolf King took out the Luan token, and the demon urged it, the token floated, and the top of the token was pointing straight ahead. Yekong nodded, "It looks okay, the direction is right, we move on." But after flying for half a day, all three suddenly felt top-heavy. With a bang, all four fell in the dense forest. What's going on? My weapon has failed, Xiaofeng Wolf King cursed. Yekong laughed, "I think 80% of them have already fallen into the scope of the devourer." Cao Junfan said depressedly, "It's obviously a poisonous pupa, but I haven't seen any poisonous pupa at all, and I don't feel any difference from other places." Cao Muse laughed and said, "Fortunately, we are not flying high, or we will be killed, and we will be laughed at." Yekong laughed, "So congratulations on being the first late ancestor of Kangdan who died in Kangnan." "Go," Cao Muse Jiao said rudely, throwing a fist in disgust. Recently, everyone has been together for a long time, and Cao Muse also let go of the master's shelf, and she looks more and more like an attractive younger sister. Cao Muse went out with this fist, and felt that something was wrong. She quickly drew back her hand and looked back at Cao Junfan. I saw Cao Junfan quickly twisted her head, and then she blushed and stood up, scratched her dress, and cursed, "The seniors who entered didn't know that they would set up a brand here to facilitate future generations." Yekong smiled and stood up and said, "Let's see, isn't the spiritual power really unable to be called, and whether the storage bag can't be opened?" Everyone mentions the spiritual power, and it seems that the spiritual power cannot be mobilized, and Yekong also feels that the 5 golden dandelions in his own air seem to be hibernating, and no trace of spiritual power can be mentioned. The Howling Wolf King was frightened, "Isn't that spiritual power can't be used? Why can't even the magic power be used? This soul-eating poison golem is too much, so how do I use the lunar token? What, even the demon power cannot be used?" Everyone was surprised. They had expected to let the Lord of the Winds and Wolf attack after entering the poisonous maggot, but who knows this situation? Yekong frowned and asked, "Can you open your storage bag?" Both Cao Junfan and Cao Mose shook their heads. The loss of spiritual power is just like when Yekong just went to Yunyeo, he becomes immortal, and of course he cannot use the storage bag. But Yekong's strange thing is that his storage ring can be opened. It seems that the seniors of Wuxing Sanren left all good things. Yekong also didn't say a word, saying, "Everyone, now that tools such as storage bags can't be opened, we'll take a step back and get some self-defense blades and then enter the Spirit Eater." In the depths of the flood wilderness, a flat area within the range of the devouring poison puppet. At this moment, there were shouts of killing here and there. 3 commoners were surrounded by a thick leather armor monster. This monster looks like a rhino, with a single horn above his head, but usually has a mild temper. But the clay figurines also had 3 points of soil. At the moment, they were chopped on the back by the 3 commoner men. It would not be polite, roaring loudly, and slammed into one of the commoner boys. The teenager's commoner was shabby, showing dark and healthy skin. He was not afraid of the monster. A flash, he immediately staggered the monster's attack. He flashed in light steps, and appeared on the side of the monster again, piercing the gap between the monster iron armor with the steel knife in his hand. Yeah, the monster was another blood-dripping, roaring, and shook his head suddenly. The youngster was caught off guard and was thrown away from a distance. He fell to the ground. The monster beast rushed over again, wanting to beat the young boy with a bowl. Chairman Xianxia, be careful. The other two commoner men hurriedly threw out a mess, grabbed the monster's leg, and let the boy dodge. The teenager was also thick and dry, and one got up, grabbed the steel knife, and continued to attack the monster. The lanyard can only catch the monster for a while, and after being pulled 3 times, the lanyard is broken. The fighting was deadlocked again. The middle-aged man attacked the monster and said, "Sir Villager, you can stand and watch. This iron cow is a long-lasting and resistant killer. For a long time, it can't support it. If you have a good deal, you can't afford it." The young man wiped the blood on his face and laughed. "It doesn't matter. It's not the first time I've come out for hunting. It's a rare encounter with an ironclad cow who has a single order. The villagers can have a good appetite, and we can be happy. Point, if other big monsters smell bloody, nothing will happen to us." At this moment, in the grove beside the open space, 4 figures were standing, watching every move outside. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 909. 908. Ecchi and others are in the woods. At this moment, Ecchi, in Xianxia, was tied with a black giant sword knight dance behind his back, and a black flag was slanted across his waist. Like the secular martial arts knights walking the rivers and lakes. By her side, Cao Muse had changed into a short outfit, which was even more soaring in her breasts. She tied her ponytail with a sapphire sword in her back, and a willow dagger on each side of the small willow. If Ecchi's and Cao Muse's dresses are somewhat inconsistent, then Cao Junfan's dress is even more exaggerated. There is a long sword in the back, 3 swords inserted in the left waist, and a rolled leather whip hanging on the right waist. There is also a cloth pocket behind the buttocks, and I don't know how many things are loaded. The only thing that seems brisk is the Howling Wolf King. Although he can't use the demon power, but it does not affect his transformation into a primitive form, and he becomes very lethal after he becomes a wolf. There was a ping-pong sound there, and I didn't notice the 4 people coming, and Ecchi and others didn't want to show up. Seeing the 3 men fighting with the iron-hide bulls, Ecchi hid behind the tree and whispered, "I didn't expect that there was a human being in this soul-eating poison puppet." Cao Muse also nodded, "I did not expect that the existence of human beings in the floodlands is inherently difficult to imagine, and the survival of this spirit-eating poison puppet is even more strange." Cao Junfan added, "And it's all mortal." Howling Wolf King looked at the 3 again and said, "Mortal, absolutely mortal." "Mortal, but mortal with martial arts," Ecchi also said. "You can see that their footsteps are light and regular, and their movements have their styles. At first glance, they have practiced secular martial arts." Neither Cao Muse nor Cao Junfan had practiced martial arts and could not distinguish the moves, but looking at the movements of those people, they really were not hands-free chickens. Originally Ecchi and others wanted to take a look and say, "But who knows that the iron-hide bull is not fighting the 3, but they ran away in an attempt to escape. The direction of escape was just the direction where Ecchi and others were. "No, it ran away, chase it," the young man, called the chief of the village, snarled and took 2 commoners, chasing after him. One of the commoner men ran and complained, "It's a hell, it's not enough to bring 10 stirrups. I knew I should bring more." The other man laughed, "Did you know that you would meet the iron cows who have orders?" Although the 3 men leaped and ran, they were not slow, but no one could run fast, and they could not catch up with the iron skin cow. Seeing the iron-skinned cow rushing into the dense forest, the young man said decisively, "Forget it, stop chasing." The two guys reluctantly said, "What a delicious meal, the taste of the braised beef on the tin is pretty good." The young man looked at the back of the iron-hide cow, swallowed, and was uncomfortable in his eyes. Ke Zhong still said, "It tastes good, and it has to be eaten. It's too dangerous in the dense forest. My dad said it many times. I would rather give up than take risks." The two men sighed and slammed angrily. But at this moment, nothing happened. After seeing a tree, a young boy in Xianxia suddenly jumped out with a long black knife in his hand. In front of the Iron Man who passed by, he suddenly cut off. Puff! Blood spewed out, and the bull's head fell. The iron-hide cattle did not change, and ran 100 meters again, hitting a huge ancient tree, and then fell to the ground. Watching the iron-hide bulls beheaded and killed, the three gray-clad men had no joy on their faces. The two middle-aged men looked at the bull who fell to the ground with disappointment in his eyes. The young man watched Yewu swallow his mouth and spit, praising, "Good knife. There is a good knife to survive in such a terrible place, and that is the biggest capital." Yekong took the shot, Cao Muse and Cao Junfan also stepped out vigilantly, although it was impossible to talk about the sword coming out of the sheath, but he was also ready. And the three grey-clad men were also careful. In this kind of place, there is no reason to say, it is common to kill people for a meter, not to mention a few 100 pounds of iron-skin cattle. However, when Xiaofeng Wolf King came out, the three of them all relaxed their vigilance and stood still, smiling. It turned out to be a monk. And the dark boy held a fist at Yekong and asked, "Dare to ask everyone who is a fairy cult to go to the Black Dragon City." Yekong and others wondered, why did the other party know that he was a monk, then relaxed and became happy? Yekong nodded and said, "Yes, I'm really going to Heilongchinj." The young man was overjoyed. "That's not the other village." After waving, he ordered, "Zhongsan Li Si." The two men in grey clothes immediately pulled out a small knife in the waist and rushed forward. Yekong and others were shocked. They also pulled out their swords and pointed at people. However, the two men in grey clothes ignored them at all, bypassing Yekong and others, and rushed directly to the carcass of the Iron Man. And the dark boy came over with a big grin, and laughed, "No tension, no tension. Everyone sees that you don't need to eat and drink, and the materials on the iron skin cow can't make high-end magical instruments. It is better to send the body to us." Only then did everyone understand that they dared to come to the food. Cao Mose let out a sigh of relief, and slammed the weapon back into the scabbard. And the boy laughed again. "That's right, rest assured, we only take food and don't kill people, our Sun family, never bully the cultivator." "Never bully the cultivator?" Cao Muse and Cao Junfan looked at each other, thinking that there was something wrong with their ears. Who bullies who? Is the cultivator so bullied? Yekong roughly understood, and laughed. "In this spirit-eating poisonous urn, the monk has no spiritual power, and all magical tools and magical powers have failed. If it meets mortals who can martial arts, it is really dangerous." Cao Mose and Cao Junfan suddenly realized that no wonder the three of them were relieved after they were all monks. Dare to be in this place, monks are the weakest beings at all. The young man waved and said, "In fact, there is no danger. We can't use the weapons of your monks, and we can't open the storage bags. What do we kill you for? The most dangerous thing for you is encountering beast tide and poison." Yekong Gong smiled. "In Xianxia, the ancestral monarch in Xiakamnan, I don't know what the younger brother called it. What's so special about this soul-eating poisonous golem? What's the meaning of beast tide and poison golem? It turns out that you are all here for the first time." The young man laughed. "Underneath is the son of the master of Sun Jiakan, who is the master of the 80 miles within the range of the poison maggot, and Sun Xiao is also Since you are waiting for your first arrival, then I will tell you what must be paid attention to when eating devils. Although the young man named Xianxia was careless, he was not a bad person. Yekong had a good impression on him. He carried the big knife behind him and smiled with his arms. Then please ask Sun Xianxia to explain. Sun Xiao was exultantly shouted by Sun Xianxia, walked over, and taught the four pink newcomers in front of him. Say you first, he pointed to Cao Junfan and cursed, you see what you bring, are you carrying so many swords? Are you selling swords? Also, there is a large pocket on the back. Do you want to attract people to rob you? As for you, you can't escape from monsters. Cao Junfan stunned and said with a bitter smile, it's the first time. Sun Xiao ignored him, and pointed his finger at the Wolf King again. The second thing is to say you. You say that you are a demon and a fierce wolf. Why are you standing at the end? In this spirit-eating poison, you is still very good. So you have to go ahead in the future. Let those young people and monsters with insufficient strength do not have an idea early. The Wolf King was hesitantly taught, and he took a few steps and asked, will you stand here? Sun Xiao said again, yes, and it is best to walk out of shape when walking, so that people are afraid. Don't change now, I have you to protect you. Oh yes yes. Watching a metamorphosis monster be taught by a mortal boy in his teens, Cao Mos couldn't help covering his mouth and giggling. This kind of scene was beyond imagination. But Sun Xiao turned his head, but pointed at her, and said, and you? Your monks have no spiritual power, so they are nothing, so don't dress up so beautifully when you enter the poisonous maggot, it will cause you trouble. Yekong laughed, get some mud on your face right away. Cao Muse blushed and shouted, you wipe the mud yourself. Cough, Sun Xiao coughed, stopped them from flirting, and walked in front of Yekong, carrying his hands behind him. Finally, talk about you. Me, Yekong pointed to his nose, inexplicably. Where am I doing wrong? Sun Xiao said angrily, of course it's wrong. You think you have some martial arts, so you can be so swaggery? You don't understand the reason that money is not exposed. You know, every village in Lingdu Poison has masters of martial arts. You put your sword behind you so carelessly, not to mention others, even Ben Xianxia was very tempted. Yekong smiled bitterly. The storage bag is useless. What a big knife, where do you put me? Could it be caught in the crotch? Sun Xiao was still a big child, and he couldn't see Yekong's teasing. He groaned, hanging there, how to walk? The others around Yekong laughed. But just then, a gentle breeze blew through the dense forest. Very normal breeze, it is soft, fresh, and very comfortable to blow on the face. Cao Mu color can't help but feel refreshed. But Sun Xiao and those two grey-clad men suddenly changed color. No. Here comes the drug lord. Why did today's drug lord come so early? Sun Xiao immediately ordered, Zhang Sanli Si, carry the iron cow and go back to the village. Zhang Sanli and Si originally wanted to split the iron cow into two halves for easy carrying. However, the weapon is not sharp enough, and it has not been split now, only to throw the bull's head to Sun Xiao, and then they carried the iron cow and flew away. Sun Xiao took the huge ox, just stepped, and thought of Yekong and others. He busy said, dear guys, the drug lord is coming, follow me to the village to escape. Sun Xiao hurried out of the dense forest. Yekong and others did not know what had happened, but looking at the appearance of Sun Xiao and others, this drug lord is not easy. How to do? Going or not? Cao Muse and Cao Junfan both looked at Yekong. Yekong didn't think, striding out with Sun Xiao, go. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 910. 9090, Shizuhuang Village. The change in this flood is extremely fast. As soon as they walked away, the dense forest was silently covered with a layer of mist, and the sky instantly darkened. Countless sounds gradually came from the mist. Then, if you fix your eyes, you will see countless blood-red eyes. At this moment, Ecchi and others behind Xianxia have figured out what the drug lord is. It turned out that the so-called lingering poisonous urn was talking about two things. Spirit Eater means that this area cannot use spiritual power, so Ecchi and others have lost their spiritual power without seeing the poisonous maggot at all. The drug lord is another thing. According to Xianxia, the drug lords appear from time to time. Recently, they appear more densely in this film, but they all started out in the evening. It is still rare to come out so early today. And they are very afraid of this poisonous venom, because this poisonous venom is very powerful. All human beings and monsters will become crazy within the envelope by the poisonous venom. Even the most docile monsters will become extremely bloodthirsty, crazy. Fortunately, before the drug lord came, there would be a refreshing breeze, giving humans time to escape. However, there are special ones. The Black Dragon City's road tokens are taken into account when refining them, so the person or the beast who carries the road tokens will not be affected by the poison lord. Of course, this is not to say that it is okay to carry a token. You are not affected by poison, but those monsters will attack you crazy, and it is equally dangerous. Ecchi and others were shocked. I didn't expect that the Ling Devourer was so powerful. Fortunately, they did not encounter the Ling Devourer along the way, otherwise it would be dangerous. The drug puppet came very fast. Ecchi and others looked back, and they saw that the distant mist was already distant behind them, and they seemed to be coming very fast. Xianxia, Ecchi, and others were okay with nothing in their hands, but the 3 Li and 4 fell for a while, but the huge iron skin cow was reluctant to abandon. Ecchi hurriedly pulled out the night dance, and took a few steps back. The black sword flashed, split the iron cow from it, followed by 2 swords, took off the huge ox leg, and then Cao Junfan and the Wolf King helped lift the ox leg. So everyone is much faster. Sun Xiao held the bull's head and praised as he ran. In the end it is a monk's weapon, it really is sharp. If I have this fast knife, all the villages around me must listen to my orders. Ecchi smiled and asked, how many villages are there? Sun Xiao panted, I don't know in the distance. There are about 7 or 8 nearby. Each village has dozens and hundreds of people. Our Sun family is a big village with more than 150 people. Ecchi wondered, a total of thousands of people? How did you come to the depths of Honghuang, and why do you live in the area where the poisonous golems ate? Sun Xiao ran a little out of breath, and said, I didn't know how it came. I guess it was from the ancestors' treasure hunt or escape, but you asked why you live here? Then I ask you, for us for these martial art mortals, is there anything better than this in the flood? Ecchi nodded and signaled that he understood. Indeed, in the dangerous flood step by step, monsters are crowded and dangerous, and it is very difficult for mortals to survive. But it's not the same in devourer poison. Both monsters and monks have no mana, and these mortals who have trained martial arts have a place to use them. Therefore, it can be said that this vomiting poisonous poison is a natural protective layer for these people. But how did the drug lords defend them? Ecchi and others followed them for a tea hour, and they saw a distant piece open up. On the open ground, there were countless tall stone pillars. Some of these stone pillars are slightly higher, some are lower, and the surface is rough. There is no magic, but it is obvious that these stone pillars are simply artificially polished and are not naturally formed. But when Sun Xiao and Zhang Sanlisi saw this place, they were relieved. Sun Xiao said, it's okay, when you arrive, you will all follow us immediately, don't walk around, otherwise you will get lost in it, and we won't have time to find you. When Ecchi and others heard him say this, they couldn't help looking at the stone pillars again. It seems that these stone pillars still have a certain mysterious law, which is likely to be an array method. At this time, not only behind them, but in the surroundings, it was already grey in all directions, and from time to time, terrifying beasts roared out. It was heard that those beasts had begun to go crazy, and howling had become sharp hissing. "Let's go," and soon Sun Xiao nodded and strode into the stone pillar. Yekong and others looked at each other and quickly followed. It can only be seen after approaching, even when the bottom of those stone pillars is carved with mysterious ancient texts, and it is not known what kind of text. Yekong and others did not know. Following Sun Xiao, turning left and turning right, Yekong asked the line while remembering the route, "Sun Xiaxia, these stone pillars are arrays." "I don't know what array, it feels very strange. Such a large array of village protection, the average person will not disclose the slightest." However, Sun Xiao was young and had a good opinion of these people. He replied, "I do not understand the specific formation method. I heard that these stone pillars were left by ancient monks. The nearby villages were all because of this stone pillar. Stay here. It's amazing to say that with these stone pillars, not only the poisonous urns can't enter, even those monsters will go around in circles after entering, and they can't find directions." Cao Junfan nodded. "That's lost, then people must be wrong if they make a mistake." Sun Xiao shook his head and said, "If there are no poisonous maggots and beast attacks, it is not dangerous to make mistakes on weekdays. It will be a matter of hours. Come in here and come out over there." As they spoke, they saw a row of stone walls ahead. The stone wall is very high, just like the city wall. On the wall, there are many strong men with weapons. Yekong asked again, "According to you, those monsters should all be blocked outside. Why should we build such a high wall?" Sun Xiao sighed, "If it was thousands of years ago, it is possible as you said. But now, the stone pillars have been destroyed and collapsed a lot under the wind and Sunday, therefore, crazy monsters often break through the stone pillar array. The high wall will be effective at that time." Sun Xiao said with one finger open and a thick wooden door, and said, "It's going to close, let's hurry in." At the door of the wooden door were still 7 or 8 young men with black iron guns in their hands, standing there vigilantly. But when they saw Sun Xiao, they all had smiles on their faces, especially when they looked at the dead iron hide cows. "Mayor of the village. Sir Village Chief, you are back." All the guards greeted Sun Xiao. They saw that this was a friend brought back by the head of the village, so they did not ask Yekong and others. Sun Xiao was also very kind to these people, and laughed, "It's good luck to go out today, and I met a single iron cow who has a single order. Everyone can have a good meal tonight. Although there are a lot of monsters in the flood, but there is not much to eat, many monsters are thick and dry, it is difficult to swallow at all, and there are not many meaty monsters like iron skin cows." Yekong also smiled at the guards and walked to the gap of the wooden door. But just about to enter and change into a living foreign monk. "Stop me," I shouted in the sky, and saw a dark shadow leaping from the high wall, with extremely strong movements. He made a roundabout movement in the air, steadily fell in front of Yekong, blocking them from entering the door route. The comer was a tall man like a tall tower, with his head tied casually, his face with long and short beards, looking very fierce, and he showed his hand just now, showing that this is a martial art senior. If you go to Kangnan, the worldly world is also regarded as a martial art master. "Say, you guys, who agreed with you to enter the village?" the tower man asked coldly. "If in Kangnan, no matter how high martial arts are mortals, how can anyone dare to scold the immortal so?" Cao Junfan was furious immediately, just came forward to talk, but was pulled back by Yekong. This man apparently saw Yekong and Sun Xiao enter the village together, but he was blocked and made it clear that he was dissatisfied with Sun Xiao. This kind of thing can be seen clearly. Sure enough, Sun Xiao came back, his face sinking, and said, "Brother Jiachan, these people are my friends. I agree that they enter the village. Is there a problem? It was originally brought by the village chief Sun Jiachin sneered with a sneer. Yin Yang strangely said, however, the village stipulated that monks entering the village to avoid drug lords must pay a certain amount of food. As the captain of the guard, I follow the rules of the village elders, or should I obey the rules of the young village chief? This is very difficult for my brother. Listening to Sun Jiachin's statement, the guards standing at the door looked embarrassed. Originally, they saw people brought in by the village chief and were not embarrassed to talk about food. Now the captain of the guard spoke, and they had to act according to the rules. But Sun Xiao laughed and said, Jiachin, who said they didn't pay for the food? Sun Xiao laughed, and threw the big cow's head at the feet of Sun Jiachin, and said loudly, see? This is the food they paid. If not for their help, but also want to eat iron cows? Eat a fart. Sun Xiao was also angry at the moment. Although Sun Jiachin often embarrassed him, it was really infuriating not to give him face in front of friends. Sun Jiachin was scolded by Sun Xiao in public. In his eyes Li Se flashed, but then his eyes turned to Yekong and others, and the yin and yang strangely said, these foreign friends are all proud and expensive, do they also have practice? I am a bit skeptical. Sun Jiachin obviously did not believe Sun Xiao's words. After all, monks are all practicing the immortal Dharma. What do they need to do when they know the immortal Dharma? Therefore, there are basically no monks who can martial arts. Sun Xiao angered, did you see any of them demon repair? Sun Jiachin laughed, let me see if there are any tooth marks on the meat. This Iron Man was not killed by the Wolf King, of course, there will be no teeth marks. Sun Xiao would like to say anything more. But Yekong had already stepped out, stood in front of Sun Jiachin with his arms, sneered, this little friend, the Iron Cow was killed by Yamao. Since you are in doubt, then Yamao will accompany you for 2 moves. To the reader. Happy Christmas to all friends. No change today, New Year's Day. Hee hee. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 911. September 10th Variation Swine. Sun Jiachin's eyes narrowed and he looked at the person with cold eyes. Although the other party was young, he had a certain majestic style. However, in this Soul Eater, those monsters above the metamorphosis didn't know how much they saw, and Sun Jiachin didn't care about this boy with a big sword. However, the corner of his eyes swept Cao Mu's behind, and his face smiled. This monk, Sun, did not intentionally make things difficult for you. There are regulations in the village. We are not like you monks who cannot eat or drink, we are all mortals. There are more than 100 mouths in this village, and the monks in the past bring along some food. Yekong didn't want to talk about this dregs, and interrupted him lazily, little friend, our food has been delivered. If you don't believe it, Ye will accompany you 2 steps. If you believe. Yekong paused for a moment, suddenly stared and yelled, give me away then. Yekong wasn't the role of a cricket wherever he went. This drunk momentum suddenly took a step back from Sun Jiachin. Give you a thin noodle and dare to scold me in public? Do you think you are a great fairy? Here, it's up to me. Sun Jiachin's eyes flashed angrily, and he raised his hands and took 2 daggers hanging on the back waist, 1 in each hand. Sun Jiachin's 2 daggers in one hand, and his eyes shot out like a wild light. At first sight, I was about to start, but I heard an old rage on the head of the city, what are you doing? Do Auntie know that there will be a beast attack soon? Let me come in and say it. Yekong looked up and saw a majestic old man standing on the city's head. Seeing the old man appear, Sun Xiaoxi was in awe, and Sun Jiachin put away the dagger, humming in his mouth, called the village chief, and stood aside. Since they agreed to enter the village, Yekong and others were not good enough to care about it. They also walked into the big wooden door. Then, the wooden door was closed, and several thick wooden pegs were inserted. This was considered to be a good door. Sun Xiao led Yekong and others into the village. Yekong looked around. Now this is a square-shaped village with a small area. There are many stone houses crowded inside, surrounded by high walls. There are men, women, and children in the village, all busy at the moment. Sturdy young men and women are standing at the wall with weapons and waiting. And those old people are doing some auxiliary work, even the old people who are walking staggeringly are no exception. Here, if you want to live, you must work hard. Sun Xiao led Yekong and others into the tallest stone house in the middle of the village. The majestic old man was waiting. After entering, Sun Xiao immediately stepped forward and said, "Daddy." As soon as he spoke, he was interrupted by the old man's eyes. Then the old man came to Yekong and introduced himself, "External monks, I am the village head Sun Wenfu here." Yekong also smiled and introduced himself and his friends. Sun Wenfu also invited them to sit down, which was considered polite to them. The monks were fragrant outside, and there was no fart here. Sun Wenfu also sat down, and then laughed, "Do you guys go to Heilongjiang?" Yekong nodded, "Exactly." Sun Wenfu sighed, "We often have monks passing by here. When encountering poisonous puppets, we enter the village to hide, but most of them are monks, and human monks like you haven't met in a long time." Cao Junfan asked, "Mr. Village, do those demon Xiu take the token of Black Dragon City?" Sun Wenfu laughed, "Of course, don't underestimate the beast attack and inhale poisonous maggots. Those monsters not only become bloodthirsty and crazy, but even their strength has increased by a grade. Some monsters will inhale poisonous gall. Become mutant monsters, so those monsters are afraid to stay outside." Yekong groaned and asked again, "How many miles is this devouring venom? How can I leave?" Sun Wenfu said, "There is a road out of the village. If you walk along the road for more than 10 days, you can leave the range of the devourer, and then use the token of the Black Dragon City to guide you. After walking for a few days, you can see the Black Dragon City." Yekong laughed, "The village chief, have you been to Heilongjiang?" Sun Wenfu shook his head and said, "No, I didn't say anything else, I said the village is 10 or so days, and I might run into a drug lord at any time. Where would I go to avoid it? Besides, what do we go to Heilongjiang as a mortal?" Yekong nodded, and just wanted to ask something, but heard the noise outside, and then there was a constant roar, accompanied by a sharp howl. Yekong busy said, "Village chief, I'll also go and see if I can do something for me." Sun Wenfu nodded, Yekong and others went out. As soon as they left Yexiao, Sun Xiao was angry. "Dad, Jiachen's kid is too much today." Sun Wenfu sighed, "Sun Jiachen is the elder of the village by virtue of his father, and his martial arts is the first in the village, so I am the position of the village chief, but unfortunately your boy martial arts is not as good as him, hey?" Sun Xiao said, "Although my martial arts are slightly worse than him, the friend I brought today is also very powerful. The one named Yekong, don't look at him as a monk, martial arts is also good, and his black sword. You cut off the Iron Maniac in one stroke, and you split the Iron Mania in half in one stroke." "Oh, so powerful," Sun Wenfu was a little surprised. Although the monks generally surpass mortals in strength and vitality, they are still very poor compared to martial arts masters. Sun Wenfu also has some insights, wondering, is he a monk who cultivates? Sun Xiao said, "Whatever he does, just ask him to help me kill Sun Jiachen." Sun Wenfu cursed, "You use your brain. If Sun Jiachen can die, I would have someone kill him." As they were talking, the noise outside was louder and louder, and the sound of fighting came to the village, and Sun Wenfu and Sun Xiao hurried out. Outside, Yekong and others are standing on a high platform, staring at the open space in the middle of the village. Sun Jiachen, who had just conflicted with them, was fighting a wild boar-like monster alone. This monster is called a hairy pig, with black hair all over the body, and the taste of pork is very good. It is usually the object of villagers who like to hunt. But now this hairy pig is not as fragile as before. Under the action of poisonous venom, it not only became bloodthirsty and fierce, but also mutated. Its black hair turned into horrible spikes, standing upright, very fierce. Unexpectedly, a subordinate pig has been advanced to a lower grade under the action of poisonous pupa. It seems that the role of this poisonous pudding cannot be underestimated. Yekong looked at the field with a gaze. If it was before, the monsters in the lower ranks of Zongpan are not Yekong's opponents like these ancestors. However, this is not the past. In the Soul Eater, Yekong, they cannot use the magic weapon. It is not easy to defeat a monster of lower grade in the middle class. As a mortal warrior, Sun Jiaqin on the field did not seem so relaxed at the moment. He evaded, avoiding the edge of the pig, looking for a chance to start. At this time, Sun Wenfu and his son came up. Sun Wenfu frowned. How did this hairy pig run into the village? The village chief asked, and someone immediately stepped forward to report. The village chief, this pig has been mutated a bit. Not only the black hair of the whole body has become a spike, but also the claws have become very powerful, and they even climbed up from the high wall. Sun Wenfu said angrily, "What are the guards standing on the wall doing? Why don't you use a spear in your hand to hit it against the high wall? Let him run into the village." The man reported again, it hit, but the hairy pig was very flexible, and the claws were very sharp. The guard couldn't stop it at all. Let it climb up. We already have 3 guards poked by its spikes. Fortunately, the guards' long pigs were picked up, otherwise everyone would be in danger. Oh, Sun Wenfu grunted coldly and stopped talking. At this time, Sun Jiaqin in the field finally waited for the opportunity. Sun Jiaqin shot his dagger out of his hands, 2 cold lights, straight into the eyes of the pig. While the pig was dodging the dagger, Sun Jiaqin yelled, "Sin beast, don't be mad." The voice didn't fall, and the body had already fluttered like lightning, grasping the spikes on the back of the pig. Yeah, Sun Jiaqin twitched his arms and turned the pig over to the ground. Boom, a few 100 pounds of hairy pigs hit the ground. Oh, the pig shouted, and the 4 sharp claws swiped quickly, trying to stand up. However, the spikes on its back are really sharp, and now they are rooted on the ground, making it impossible to climb up. "Animal, look at you crazy again," Sun Jiaqin snorted coldly, picked up the dagger on the ground. A tiger jumped up, and a cold arc drawn in his hand. Well, Sun Jiaqin had stood firmly on the bright pig's belly, and the 2 daggers in his hand had been pinned on the throat of the pig. A hairy pig also wants to be arrogant. Sun Jiaqin smiled coldly in the direction of the high platform, and suddenly pulled out his dagger. Puff! The blood arrow burst out and sprayed his face, but Sun Jiaqin didn't want to dodge. He raised the knife to the pig's neck and stabbed again, until the blood of the pig was bleeding. The call sound became weak. Then he stopped and stood up, raised his arms and raised his knife. "Captain Yingluo!" As one shouted, all the other villagers shouted. The cry of the Captain Yingluo echoed in the village. "This kid has refined his body," Cao Junfan whispered. In fact, Yekong also saw it. When Sun Jiaqin fell out of the pig just now, his arms were already on the spikes, but he was not harmed. Apparently he had refined his body. Yekong nodded, and looked at Sun Wenfu, who looked unsightly, and whispered, "It seems that the young village chief Sun Xiao is not good enough." Cao Mose asked, "Are we going to help him?" Yekong shook his head. "What matter to us, we just hurried to Heilongchange. If Sun Jiaqin doesn't mess with us, just dare to mess with us." On the other side, Sun Wenfu asked his son coldly, "Xiao Er, if you, can you kill this mutant pig?" Sun Xiao smiled bitterly. He happened to get a copy of the exercises from the beginning. He is much better than the average martial art master. How can I compare to him? Sun Wenfu sighed, This is why I dare not touch him. If he is gone, let alone these monsters, even other villages will definitely bully us. Unless. Sun Wenfu turned to look at Yekong on the high stage and wait, the man said, unless you think of a way out of them. Sun Xiao asked, what can you think of from them? They will leave soon. Sun Wenfu laughed, impossible, I don't think they can go in the short term. Sun Xiao asked, why? Sun Wenfu patted the back of his son, why are you so stupid? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 912. Leaving the village on September 11th. Sun Xiao couldn't figure it out, but Yekong and others were all clever, and they were not too young. It was easy to think of the key. After the four were led by the villagers into a large house dedicated to the monks, Cao Junfen said, according to the village chief, there must be 10 days to leave the soul-eating poisonous urn. In these 10 days, we will inevitably encounter the poisonous urn. But we only have one token, what should we do? This is a problem. Yekong nodded and groaned. If he encounters poisonous maggots and those mad monsters, Yekong can lay out 8 golden light arrays in advance to resist animal attacks. But the key 8 golden light arrays can't stop the poisonous puppets. If Cao Junfen and Cao Muse are crazy, what will Yekong do? Cao Muse could not help but bowed his head, and said quietly, I didn't expect such troubles. Am I burdening you? Otherwise, I will live in this village and wait for you to come back. Cao Junfen shook his head and said, and, don't say that, even if you don't go, our tokens are not enough. Yekong also said, yeah, Junfen has no token. And how can we rest assured that you are left here alone? You have no spiritual power now, not much better than a mortal woman. Cao Mose was surprised, no. Why not? Cao Junfen said, you haven't seen the women here with dark skin and ugly looks. I see those men looking straight at you. Cao Mose smiled bitterly, I knew I would really put some mud on my face. At this moment, Xiaofeng Wolf King interjected, if there are other demon repairs passing by at this moment, we kill them and seize the token, that's fine. This is a solution. Yekong nodded, but then he couldn't help but sigh. He once hated killing and killing treasures. But after so many things, he accepted it. It was getting late, and the scent of food had begun to float in the small village. There is a shortage of food here, especially those meats with excellent taste are scarce. But everyone is still very happy today. The meat of iron cows and hairy pigs is good. After simple roasting, it is the best food. Sun Xiao was holding a large tile basin filled with the meat of iron cows, and brought it into the room. Looking at this large pot of meat, Yekong suddenly thought of the time when he was in the face of the ancestral hall when his father was in Nandu city. At that time, the captain of the guard Lu Changqing invited himself to eat the meat of iron cows. At that time, I felt that the taste was really delicious. This shaking has passed for over 30 years, and he has gone from being an ignorant boy to becoming an ancestor in the late period of Dandan. If you count the time in the mustard time tower, you are already 150 years old, it is unthinkable. When Yekong returns, everyone is watching him now. He blushed rare and smiled, I just remembered something. After speaking, he pushed the large pot of beef back to Sun Xiao, and said, I do not have to wait for the monks to eat? The food in your village is tight. You can take it back. Sun Xiao had expected it, nodded, and set the big basin aside, but instead of leaving, he stood aside and seemed to stop talking. Yekong laughed. You kid, when you taught us during the day, you were so energetic. Why are you looking like this now? Sun Xiao he laughed, I want to touch your black sword, it's really handsome. Yekong laughed, took off the knife, threw it to him, and said, let's touch enough. Sun Xiao froze, but Yekong was so generous. Here, a good weapon is more important than a life. Who can easily give important weapons to others? Brother Ye, aren't you afraid I took the knife away? Sun Xiao took it and asked, looking up. Yekong laughed, don't be afraid, just by the sentence you said at the door, this is my friend, and I can fully trust you. Tell you that the people who can be my Yekong friends are bright and shrewd. Of course, even though Yekong said so, the key is not here. The key is that even if Sun Xiao snatches the night dance, he can easily it back. In front of his powerful strength, what is a little conspiracy? Sun Xiao listened to Yekong's boldness. As soon as his heart was hot and his lips moved, he almost revealed what Dad had said to him. However, to the lips, Sun Xiao swallowed again. After half an hour, Sun Xiao finished playing with the sword and went back excitedly, and couldn't wait to walk into Dad's room. Moonlight in the room was bright, and Sun Wenfu was waiting for news from his son. How is it? I think Brother Ye is a cheerful person. Sun Wenfu asked again, is he really a martial artist? Sun Xiao said, of course, I really watched him today slash the iron cow. Dad, I couldn't help taking things out, and then let Brother Ye teach me martial arts. If he agreed, we would give them things. Sun Wenfu shook his head and asked, if he doesn't agree, what if we want to take our things? Sun Xiao was speechless right away. Sun Wenfu sighed, still observing for a while. Everyone said that monks are extremely selfish. For treasures, anyone can kill. We don't want good people to fail but get in trouble. Sun Xiao nodded. But he also said, I don't think Brother Ye is this kind of person. The next day, early in the morning. It was just clearing up, and in a corner of the village, a man like a tower was grinding his dagger silently. After a while, he would look up at a stone house, with a hungry light in his eyes, like a hungry wolf. After a while, the gate of the stone house opened, and a young boy in Xingyi was carrying a black sword. This was Yekong who was about to go out. Yekong, can you go out by yourself? Come back when you meet the drug lord, and also, do you bring the token with you? Can it take effect when you bring it? Wouldn't it require demon power to motivate it? Cao Muse has changed into a long dress, she wants to cover her charming chest curve, but this way, but has added a lot of flattery to her. Yekong laughed, relax, I know everything, and bless me with good luck. Yekong thought about it all night, and there was no good way, so he decided to leave the village to try his luck. Presumably those demon monks or monks who come and go, over the years, many have died under the beast's mouth. If you can have good luck, if you encounter the bodies of these dead people, will there not be a road guide token? Cao Junfan said, otherwise, you bring the Wolf King. Yekong snorted coldly, looking at the sharpening man in the corner of his eye, and said, I'm not at ease. The Wolf King is also a savvy old guy, and immediately said, Master, rest assured. When you are away, I promise to stay in step and never let them be in danger. Yekong nodded, but then said, if I don't come back for a month, you immediately turn around and leave here, don't wait any longer. No, Cao Muse said immediately nervously. Did you forget your vow? But rest assured, I'm just in case something goes wrong, I go out and take a lap, and I will come back soon without any problems, Yekong said solemnly, holding on to Cao Muse's shoulders. Cao Muse then nodded. Then you must be careful. Relax, Yekong was reluctant to let go, and Master's two arms were so soft. Looking at Yekong's movement, Cao Junfan quickly turned his head to look at the sky. I didn't see it, I didn't see anything. The howling Wolf King sighed, if only there was a she-wolf. But in the distance, the sharpening intention in the eyes of the sharpened man was more obvious. Subsequently, Yekong strode out of the village and set off on his own. On the high wall, Xianxia watched Yekong's figure disappear into the stone pillars. He couldn't help worrying and asked, "Dad, brother Ye is not in danger?" Sun Wenfu said lightly, "If he doesn't even have the ability to protect himself, what use would we give looting tokens to him?" Yekong was out of the village, and sure enough he saw a Lois road in front of him, without a pedestrian on the road. Yekong didn't care about it, and walked along the road. This is the only way for all the demon repairs to pass through the devouring poison, so the road is very safe when the poison sister is not up. Yekong walked for almost an hour, and did not meet anyone on the road. Similarly, the monster did not meet one. But the immediate environment has become a bit harsh. There is no longer a flat plain ahead, but it is gradually on the mountain road. On both sides of the mountain road, weird rocks are erected, and behind the weird rocks, there are very dense plants growing, and weeds on the ground are as tall as a person. He could not help slowing down. Although he is a daring artist, but in such a place, it is obviously more chaotic than Kangnan. However, Yekong's main defense is not a monster. With his shadow dance practice, he can easily cope with the strongest monster even without spiritual power. Can't deal with it, can he escape? He guards against people. In this chaotic area, the law of the jungle is more thoroughly implemented, and people are obviously more dangerous. A simpler one can be the reason for being killed. Killing or being killed is just like a routine. For another time, Yekong has already walked in the mountains. There are dark green plants all around. These plants are not found in Kangnan. Except for this mountain road, it seems that there are green oceans around it. This makes Yekong's heart more careful. Along the way, Yekong did not explore the dense forest on both sides. Although he knows that it is impossible to find something on this path, it is obviously not a problem to enter the dense forest. It's best to meet a passing person and ask about it. While Yekong murmured, he heard the noise of howling at the foot of the mountain ahead. During this period there was also mixed with human whistling. He could not help but quicken his pace and ran down the hill along the Lois road. After going down the mountain, the scenery is different from that on the mountain. The dark green of the ridges has disappeared. Two tall peaks appear in front of the eyes. The mountains are on both sides of the road to form a deep canyon. There are no trees in the canyon. There were only a few old trees that had long since died. On the trees stood a row of fiery red crows. The crows were barking and disturbing. Under the tree, a pair of men and women in grey cloth are fighting fiercely with several fire crows. To the reader. Confession wall. Levi wants to say to his wife Nana, "Happy birthday, always happy. I love you." The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 913. 9/12th's Menacing Heart. Yekong had killed a lot of this fire-breathing crow in Kangbei. This is a kind of high-end monster bird. It has a violent character and is not afraid of death. It is very troublesome. However, the Spitfire raven's strength has dropped a lot in the devouring poison clam, because they will not spit fire, the magic power cannot be called, and the Spitfire cannot be spitted naturally. But even then, the men and women were clearly not Spitfire's opponents. After all, Spitfire is a high-end monster bird, but these two are mortal warriors. The man was in his 20s, wearing a shabby dress and holding a machete with a gap in his hand. At this moment he was dancing to the sword, and the woman was also 10 years old and holding a dagger. It can be seen that she is a light and agile martial art practiced. Both of them are dark-skinned, and at first glance they are the villagers in the bite of poison. The man was adamant, and the woman was clueless. It looked like a good match, but they met a group of Spitfire ravens. There are about 100 of these Spitfire crows, and 60 or 70 crows parked on the tree, as if shouting cheers. Under the tree, there are 30 or 40 Spitfire crows surrounding the young men and women. These Spitfire crows are so astute that they don't hit them hard, but howling to hover in the sky, and when the man's knife lightens, they will suddenly rush down, peck on the pair of men and women, peck their clothes, take a small piece of flesh. At this moment the man's body was covered with blood, blood was stained on the grey pants, and those wounds were still bleeding. The most important thing was that his strength was almost exhausted. The woman's condition was slightly better, but her clothes were broken and she could not cover her body, and even a bulging plump leaked out. Look at their feet, except for the fire crow feathers in one place, there is only the body of a fire-breathing crow. Sister, you go quickly, I can't support it, the man gasped, apparently reaching the point where he could not support it. Xianxia, I won't go. The woman was loyal, she wouldn't leave, she drew a dagger, and drove away a flaming fire crow. The man gritted his teeth and shouted, we can't all die here. I'm going to die soon, go. If you don't go, I won't dance. The man tried his last bit of strength and slammed his sword. And those fire crows seemed to know that they were fighting beasts, and they flew up, laughing like laughter. The woman had tears in her eyes, and it was difficult to choose whether to leave or not at this moment. Ecchi was not a cold-blooded person, and it was not his style to help him in this situation. At this time, the two had reached the point of life and death. All the spitfires on the tree were fluttering and preparing to enjoy this delicious meal, and the woman was not willing to leave the man in the end. My sister. Xianxia. The two gave up resistance and hugged together. Pop, a sharp tear came into my ear, and then a continuous crackling sounded. At the same time, the roar of the fire crow turned into panic. The waiting death didn't come. The men and women opened their eyes in surprise, but there were several fire crow corpses cut into two on the ground. This is. For the rest of the life, the woman wept for joy, hiding her face and crying, Xianxia, we are saved. And the man was not stupid, and did not know where the energy came from. He once again danced with a large blade and followed Ecchi to drive away those stagnant fire crows. These spitfire crows were originally fierce beasts. Although they were startled by Ecchi's sudden killing, but after a brief panic, they all became furious, flapping their wings and rushing towards Ecchi. Deadly beast, Ecchi snorted coldly, showing no mercy. The night dance was like a black wind, and his feet jumped from time to time in a shadow dance pose, killing the spitfire in the air. Although the pair of men and women also followed Ecchi against the spitfire raven, they were disturbed. The person in front of me didn't know him. It was hard to say whether it was a blessing or a curse that he was saved. And the man noticed the damage of the woman's chest clothes, he quickly gestured with his eyes, let the woman pull the placket. The woman noticed that she had already been exposed, and quickly covered it with one hand, but she was panicking again. The teenager who saved them would not make any unfair demands immediately. Do not blame them for worrying. There are fewer women and fewer young women in this bite-eating poisonous sting. Those young men are all like hungry wolves. They saved you, and they repaid them as a reward. Right. In fact, Ecchi has already seen it, but his wives are all very beautiful, how can they be tempted by such black-skinned women? When he saw the man's movement, he didn't say much, and continued to slash the fire crow. Although the flamethrower was not afraid of death, but after losing half of the corpse, he also knew that today's meal might not be eaten. All the flamethrowers flapped their wings with the sound of a leading flame crow. Flew without a trace. The danger was lifted, and the man's strong breath disappeared, his figure fluttered and he fell to the ground. Xianxia, the woman screamed in surprise. Ecchi put the night dance back behind him and glanced at him, well, it's okay, he just took off, give him some water, something to eat, and it will be all right. The woman was very young. At this moment, she had no god, and when Ecchi said that he was busy taking out his skin and letting the man drink water, he took out another piece of cake, and tore it apart halfway. Half to her husband and half to Ecchi. Ecchi's Joan warmed, it seems that there is still friendship between human beings, no matter what, This action of delivering cakes makes Yekong feel that they have not saved the two in vain. Of course, Yekong naturally does not eat cakes. The man took a sip of water and looked a lot better, struggling to salute Yekong. Yekong waved his hand. Anyway, the road sees unevenness and pulls a knife to help, not to mention these flame-throwing crows are not a thing to me at all, but I have something to ask you, and you must answer truthfully. The men and women nodded and said, "Thank you, brother, for your life-saving help, and our couple will answer truthfully." Yekong asked, "Actually, I was looking for a wayfinding token to Heilongchange. I don't know in which village you have heard of, or was there a way to get it?" The woman smiled bitterly. "This kind of thing is impossible for us to get. Although the past demon repairs have no mana, they are extremely arrogant. It is impossible for us to get them. Even if anyone picks them up, they will not tell them." Yekong thought about it, and he was in a hurry. This kind of question basically asked them to be blind, and he asked, "Where do you think there are more monsters, or where will there be monsters?" The woman lowered her head to think, but the man turned his eyes and thought of a place. "Brother, it's a coincidence. I know one place. There are a lot of monsters there, and a few days ago, I accidentally showed a corpse of demon repair there. I wanted to go over and see if there were any leftovers, but the monsters over there are really not something I can deal with, so I have to give up." Yekong was overjoyed. "Really asked the right person. Generally, the demon repair walking in the Soul Eater poisoning, there will be Liu Yunling card in Chengdu, find the token and find the body. As for those monsters, Yekong is no longer in the scope of consideration." "Speak to here," Yekong face said without changing color. "From here to the east, about 30 miles, there will be a swamp." The man said just now, but the woman exclaimed. The man asked quickly, "What's wrong, sister?" The woman's eyes flashed in panic, and she quickly covered her chest and said, "It's my clothes that are torn." The man busily said, Big brother laughed. "My lady is so shy." Yekong En made a noise and nodded, unable to see the mood. Said, "Keep talking." The man was busy and said, "Out of this canyon, leave the dirt road, enter the dense forest and go east for about 30 miles, there will be a swamp, and the demon who saw the edge next to the swamp repairs the body, as if it had just died a few days, but big brother, there are many monsters there, very dangerous. If big brother wants to go, consider it." A look of joy finally appeared on Yekong's face. "How many days have I just died?" The man's eyes were obviously a little confused, but he insisted for a moment, "It should be, but the rush is passing by, but the clothes look good after death." Yekong's eyes blinked with a sarcastic smile, "The clothes are still new." "Yeah." The man looked at Yekong flatteringly. The woman lowered her head. Yekong no longer said more, striding toward the canyon's exit. When Yekong's back disappeared, the man finally took a long breath, but his eyes showed a fierce look, and sighed, "Brother, I'm sorry." But the woman looked up anxiously. "Sangong, you know that there is a corpse there, why did you lie to Gong?" Sister, there is no way to be a father," the man sighed. "My martial arts are not good, and the few martial arts guys in the village are working on your idea. Don't think that I don't know. They usually do something to you. Move your feet, although you never said, but I am very clear." When the woman heard this, she couldn't help lowering her head, but quickly raised her head again. "What does this have to do with deceiving grace?" "Of course it matters," the man said. "Have you seen the sword on his back? It's like cutting gold and jade, cutting iron like mud. If I have this knife, I can make up for my martial arts. Defects in the village can fight with those guys." "Ah, you made this idea?" The woman looked at the man in surprise. The fierce color in the man's eyes appeared again. Nodded, "Yes, I just made this idea. The young martial artist was so strong that I was not his opponent, but as long as he died in the hand of the corpse, we can find a chance to get the sword secretly, then you will not be bullied again. The woman wanted to blame her husband, but after hearing what he said, he couldn't speak the words of resentment, sighing resentfully, Xiangong, but after all, he saved us, and he will be punished for doing such things. The man was a little panicked, but then he comforted again, I won't be avenged, and I didn't lie to him. He said to find the demon Xiuxiu's body, the corpse must have changed from the demon Xiuxiu. I lied to him well? No. Besides, I also told him that there is very dangerous. He is going to go by himself. What can we do? To say that this man is really a tongue-in-cheek, a woman could not refute the words, only sighed and nodded silently. At this moment the man stood up and said, Go. Where? Follow up and see, as soon as he dies, we will take the sword, but don't let other people get into the hole.